Hi everyone, welcome to today's video where we're gonna have a look at NIO stock and see if it's actually a good time to invest in a company. The valuation is very low. That being said, there are reasons why the valuation is so low, especially even compared to the likes of Xpeng. But I do think at times I have might been a little bit too pessimistic, and NIO spends a lot of money on R&D. So what do they get for their R&D spend? Well, we can see that NIO is investing, for example, in millimeter wave radars. This is another system, a safety system, in addition to the cameras that you have in your self-driving systems, the likes like Tesla has, only relying on cameras. I don't think that's the path forward. I do believe that the market will be very clear that you need cameras, you need lidars, you need radars. Now, between lidars and radars, I do think that the radar solution on the market seems to be becoming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. If you follow the CES, every year in 2024, 2025, it seems that, the difference between the LiDAR and the radar is essentially that LiDARs are much more performant, but they are also so incredibly expensive. Whereas radars can give you substantial good performance and also much less cost. And in the past couple of years, I do feel like we are getting to the point where the cost of LiDARs are coming down, but also the performance of the radars is actually going up due to the millimeter wave radars. So it's a question of, will the LiDARs become cheaper fast enough, or will the radars become technically good enough faster? Right now, the market looks like it's going to the direction of radars that are cheap, but also very performant. And the companies that are adapting well to this, obviously NIO one of them. This is where the investment, the R&D money is going for NIO. In addition to that, we can see here that, for example, this German tested automatic braking system in heavy rain, only the LiDAR equipped NIO braked in time. Again, if this becomes, as the Twitter handle there, Fact Chaser, becomes part of the Euro NCAP safety standard test, Tesla will have obviously huge troubles. Now, I do feel that it would be interesting to see if a NIO, if they disable the LiDARs, if they would be able to do the same performance with the radars. That's a question for the future. If so, they're going to be able to save a huge amount of money, because the LiDARs obviously still are quite costly. In addition to that, why is safety important? Well, you can see that insurance premiums are going down for NIO, 25% for major insurance, because it's statistically safer vehicle due to its build quality and intelligent safety system, as Marcel says. Meanwhile, the company Xiaomi and their cars, they're going in the opposite direction. And he also added a picture of essentially photo of a Xiaomi SU7 user protesting the insurance cost going up. So all the money invested in NIO is not bad, in my opinion. It's just, hopefully they do it in a way where they don't risk the company's future. You would argue that the management, the CEO, would be aware of this, like this is simple, but sometimes it feels like they simply don't care about that. But currently, I would say I'm trying to see NIO from a positive light, and there's some good stuff happening there. Again, same kind of, Xiaomi continue with trouble and, insurance premiums going up. In addition to that, looking at the lithium carbonate price, putting another lows in the past 5 years, it's going really fast down now. So I would say for all of our car manufacturers, electric vehicle manufacturers, this is a really good news. Xpeng also just recently posted their Q1 of 2025 earnings, which was really good. I think they had their lowest net loss in 5 years. That is also pointing to a picture where the, let's say, market is maturing a little bit. This huge price wars that we have seen over the past 18 to 24 months, I would say that in the up and coming 2 years, I would say that we are gonna get a little bit less aggressive competition, in my opinion, due to the fact that some of the companies will essentially not be able to compete, and they will be, in best case scenario, purchased by the bigger fish, or worst case scenario, get out of business. Now, going to the actual numbers, the interesting stuff that came in last couple of days, looking at the insurance, weekly insurance registration numbers. Again, for the starting with Xpeng and NIO compared to Tesla, we can see that still NIO and Xpeng outselling Tesla in China. Now, with, let's say, there are a couple of thousands or so more cars. Again, over the past over the first 20 weeks of the year, there's only been 5 weeks where Tesla has outsold NIO and Xpeng in China. Again, this was expected to some degree, but if you ask me end of 2024 that of the first 20 weeks NIO and XPeng would outsell the Tesla 75% of the weeks, I would actually not believe you. Like I would say like, let's say, I don't know, 25 to 50% would be more realistic, but to actually outselling Tesla 3 out of the 4 weeks of the year is quite stellar job for NIO and XPeng. Looking at the also when we add Li Auto and weekly numbers from week 9 and onwards, you can see that NIO is now for the essentially second week being at 6,000. We have XPeng at 9,000 and 8,000, Li Auto at 9,000 and 8,000. Tesla was at 3,000 last week, 11,000 right now. Now, we can also see that NIO is currently sitting at around 16,000 deliveries for May, which I would say is quite good. Remember that we still have 2 full weeks to be reported for this month of May, which is, if they continue at these 6,000 to 7,000 deliveries, that's anywhere between 12,000 to 15,000 additional deliveries. And all of a sudden, looking at this graph here for the 2025 bars, which are the gray or white bars for May, you could even see a scenario where it actually surpassed 30,000 cars in May. I could see NIO doing in excess of 31,000, their best ever month, which was December of last year, 2024. At this kind of pace, they could actually do better than that. And that would be really, really great. All that being said, I do expect that this up and coming 2 or 3 weeks will be a little bit hectic. Why do I say that? Well, again, NIO's earnings is gonna be, Q1 earnings is gonna be reported in let's say 10 days or 10 working days or so, early June, I think the 3rd of June or something like that. Now, why will that be bad? Well, the delivery numbers in first quarter of this year has been quite bad, 42,000. Now, obviously, they're reporting very late in the quarter, in June, which is the last month of the Q2. So in less than 4 weeks after their earnings of Q1, we will have the delivery numbers of Q2. Now, in my previous model, I expected NIO to deliver 80,000 in Q2. With the updated, the really strong performance in May currently, I updated that to 87,400 for Q2. I do expect that the guidance that they will give in the earnings in a couple of weeks or so for Q2 will be quite nice. Now, I updated my numbers as well. I still see that Q1 will be really, really bad. Like they will have a net loss probably, in best case scenario, 700 to 800 million down. In worst case scenario, around $1 billion. But all that being said, the net income in next quarter, in Q2, could be substantially better. They could be like, in terms of net loss, going from around 800 to 900 million net loss in Q1 to 600 million net loss in Q2, based on 87,000 deliveries. And it could quickly go to less than $500 million net loss in Q3, based on 110,000 cars. And is that realistic? Like, will NIO be able to deliver, those kind of numbers in Q3 and Q4? Well, honestly, if you now all of a sudden look at the delivery numbers for Onvo, still based on, essentially one car. They will have, the L80 and L90 in full volume production probably by end of the year. And then in addition to that, the previous L60. And they're doing like 1,600 cars weekly now, which is like 4,000 or 5,000 cars a month on essentially one single car, right? I could see them do 10,000, 15,000 cars a month by end of this year for sure on Onvo. Firefly is almost on 1,000 weekly deliveries in last week, 830. They could probably do at least like a couple of thousand of those probably by end of this year, which is a weekly rate. And that's probably getting to 8,000 to 10,000 per month even there. And then finally, we have the traditional NIO brand, which is still sitting at around anywhere between 3,000 to 4,000, maybe sometimes 5,000 to 6,000 a week. That's like 20,000 a month. So we could see a scenario like 60,000 deliveries for NIO Classic, 40,000 to 60,000 for Onvo, and maybe 20,000 to 40,000 for Firefly. I'm quite satisfied, but again, it all hangs on, like, will they be able to cut costs? Like, I'm not arguing that NIO will be bankrupted by end of this year, but in the worst case scenario, the net loss will not be, going down substantially, and whatever they have promised in this last couple of months, will turn out to be like the 2023 and 2024, where they promise a lot of stuff but they didn't fulfill their promises. But for once though, I would say that, if they just manage, like if NIO manages to get to profitability before the company's future is in like huge risk in terms of cash on hand and how much cash loss and cash burn they have on each quarter, if they just manage to stay clear of essentially risk of bankruptcy, I do see this company like becoming for sure maybe the best EV company on planet. That is the potential of NIO. It's always been that potential. I mean, they have really safe cars. They have quality cars, and the safety is just like screaming from their cars from every single point of view. So the problem has never been the actual tech in the NIO cars. But hopefully, let's wait and see. I think we've waited so long. Let's wait a couple of more months. Let's wait until Q3 and Q4 of this year, and then we reassess if everything is going in the correct direction, if we actually have to for sure finally admit that this was not to be in terms of NIO. I think the right answer will come in 6 or 10 months from now. But all that being said, this is not investment advice. I just wanted to update you and potentially also giving you why they invest so much in R&D. Remember that NIO's R&D budget normalized for number of cars sold. So essentially how much R&D they spend per car sold is double than Xpeng and the likes of Tesla. And speaking of Tesla, I do see that Tesla is facing quite substantial struggles. Like, look at this, BYD surpasses Tesla in BEV registrations in Europe for the first time. I mean, Tesla is like, they're like well behind Volkswagen, BMW, Audi, Kia, Renault, Mercedes and Volvo, like, and Hyundai and BYD on essentially 10th place or so in Europe for April. They're struggling and they're losing market share in China as well. We have seen previously in terms of the full year delivery numbers, you can see here, removing BYD, looking at this Li Auto, Xpeng, NIO and Tesla, you can see that even like at one point, even at like in the previous target for 2025, which was 2 million deliveries, in like very positive outcome that I expected, they would still lose market share. But right now they're barely even gonna do like 1.6 million cars for this year. They're struggling, and this like betting everything in terms of self-driving FSD on vision only. I mean, either I'm stupid or like how could they possibly, like one of the best EV companies on the planet, just assume that vision only is gonna be the future? I mean, what happens if the cameras is like dirty? Like how can you rely on the safety of your passengers and your customers only on just one like modality, essentially cameras and vision? Whereas you can buy like any other car that gives you, the cameras that it gives you. Like, why would you as a consumer buy a Tesla when you can buy any other EV that has, a camera? It has also the LiDAR and also the radar. Like, why would you? So this is my big question for Tesla investors. But in any ways, that was a quick update, mostly on NIO and a little bit on Xpeng, which we have, to let's praise Xpeng for their hard work. I mean, they're getting very close to profitability, so hats off to them and their management. Hopefully NIO will replicate this very soon. Anyways, thanks for your time. Please like and comment in the comment section, and see you in the next one.